Hello and welcome back to World Traveler Cooking. Today we will continue with our French sauces series and we will do one called sauce Pistou. Now this is basically a very close relative of various Italian pesto sauces. In fact, I think Italians would recognize this as a form of pesto, though certainly not quite pesto genovese. There are some small differences here, and of course it's eaten in southern France in a slightly different way. Now, French and Italian cooking have many connections going back for a long time, although sauce theory is a little bit different in many cases. This is definitely a Mediterranean sauce. It is something that you would see sort of common, has aspects common to Italian, Spanish, and southern French cuisines. And so we have to sort of think about it in that regard. In fact, these connections between Italian and French cuisine are so deep that our earliest recipes for a risotto with saffron and bone marrow comes not from Milan, but from southern France. So, southern France and Italy have a lot of connections in this regard, and you'll see this in action with sauce Pistou. Now, our ingredients are quite simple. We have olive oil, basically as much as we need. Optionally, you can add some Emmental cheese. We have garlic, we have salt, and we have basil. And when we get done, we will eat this with bread. Obviously, unlike in Liguria, this would, although French will sometimes put it on pasta, this is, in French cuisine, much more typically eaten on bread. So, let's go ahead and get started. So first I have to say this looks like an awesome mortar and pestle. I just got it. It was remarkably cheap. It looks like it's made out of basalt, maybe andesite. So it should be relatively hard, quite rough, should grind things down rapidly, although this may pose some challenges in cleaning. So I'm first going to add my 4 cloves of garlic to my pestle, my mortar, and I will start pounding them. And I noticed that some French recipes suggest adding bread. I think I will do some of that today. I would expect the bread to help emulsify, hold the olive oil and stuff like that. So you could then add more olive oil, get more mild flavor perhaps, something that might be even better for spreading on bread. So, yeah. Here we are. Next up, once these are in here, we're just going to mash these up, grind them up finely, and if you want to use a garlic press to sort of pre-press the garlic, that should work too. That's up to you. This seems to work really well. I'm also going to add my salt here.
Okay.
So I've decided to add half a teaspoon of salt. And if we add it at the beginning, that should help to grind this garlic down. And it really didn't take very much, and now that's ground. So now we will add, I decided to add 2 little pieces of the baguette. Some people say as much as 1 slice of sandwich bread. So I'm going to add one of these at a time. We'll say one thing, Indonesians know how to make systems like this for grinding stuff. This is working way better than I would have ever expected. Pretty soon you get this sort of paste. And I think I'll start adding a bit of olive oil and then some basil. So don't want to add too much oil at a time. We do want this to emulsify. And I'm just going to grind this together for a bit. And that's looking pretty good. So now I'll throw in maybe a little bit of basil. And I do add the stems as long as they are tender, but you do have to check. If they're not super tender and break you off easily, then... But just, ooh, that's smelling good. That's smelling delicious. And just add some olive oil as needed and keep adding the rest of the basil, and we will slowly grind this into a nice mass. I started with about 80 grams of basil, by the way. So I'll be back when I have added most of this basil. So once that's relatively evenly mashed, if you want to add some Emmentaler cheese, you can. Just add cheese to taste, grind it in, a bit at a time, and grind until you have relatively smooth paste. Now, you don't have to make it super smooth if you like it a little more chunky. And obviously, if you were to use a food processor instead of a mortar and pestle, you will get a smoother texture. But there are a lot of purists who think the flavor and experience of what you get with the hand method is better. I don't know about that. But I certainly know that this was not as much work as I expected it to be. And I think our pistou, sauce pistou, is just about done. Next I'll put it in a little bowl for display. And I'll be ready to do the taste test. And now for the taste test. Just going to take some of this, scoop it onto the bread. Just going to try this heel here. This is really good. This is really good. It tastes like pesto, of course. It tastes like Italian pesto, but there's some differences and subtleties. Brought in by the use of Emmentaler cheese instead of Parmesan, and similar. And all in all, this is a really delightful combination with the bread here. Really good. Definitely something to add to your repertoire. Now, if you find this content interesting, please like, share, and subscribe. If you make a dish like this, so you do it a little differently, or you have any other reason to say something, please comment on the video below. And on top of that, recipes in the description. Bon appetit, and see you next week.